Joining me for analysis on the breaking story, Club for Growth President David McIntosh, conservative commentator Gina Loudon, and radio talk show host Ethan Berman. Good to have you all here. I know you've been reading through all of this as well. David, I'll start with you. How do you interpret this loyalty comment?
You know, it's very interesting. I served in the Justice Department as a young lawyer to Attorney General Meese. It's very appropriate for the president to ask all of the members of the Justice Department to be loyal to him as president, that they will take his direction. The Constitution says he's responsible, the president's responsible for law enforcement, and that means the FBI Director Comey really, in the end, reports to him. So it's an appropriate request.
It's an appropriate. Okay. That said, if I follow this letter here, and it's sort of a time by time or minute by minute account of that dinner that they had together, the first question the president had asked him, Ethan, was, do you want your job? Do you like your job, or do you want it effectively? And James Comey said, yeah, I'm here, and I want to do this. And then he followed up with the loyalty question. Do you agree with David? I mean, perfectly appropriate thing to ask for, or are people going to look at this and somehow assume that it meant a whole lot more than I just need your loyalty?
Nope, I don't think it's appropriate. I think this is a problem that we've had with the previous presidency. I think that's a problem with this presidency. I want the law enforcement community in this country, of which the head of the FBI is one of the top members, to be objective to the law and enforcing the law and pursuing those who break the law. When you skip down to the February 14th meeting, I think the president made a real mistake. And I think that this will be litigated as obstruction of justice. I actually disagree with the judge on this one. I think there's enough here that this will be litigated, because he specifically went in to talk about that General Flynn hadn't done anything, that this shouldn't be pursued any further. This is very
you see by reading the statement here, Gina, I'll go to you, that he wanted to be free of what he refers to as the cloud. In other words, the suspicion surrounding him as a result of all these allegations about Russia and the Trump campaign somehow teaming up to steal the election from Hillary Clinton. He wanted to be done with all of that. Understandably so, because it's hard to govern and get anything else done when you've got the media and the left acting as though that's some kind of feeding frenzy. So, in many ways, asking for loyalty, and I'm not defending him here, but I am trying to poke some holes in what Ethan's saying. Asking for loyalty seems like something you might ask of anybody who's working for you. And I think it's perfectly understandable that he'd like to be done with all the suspicions, however that may be. And perhaps that means getting to the bottom of the investigation so that he can indeed, Gina, remove the cloud.
Right. Trish, my background is in human behavior, and I'm trained especially to help detect lies and truth via facts and motivation. That's my special training. And I can tell you, looking at this, there are factual discrepancies and there are motivational discrepancies with what Comey is trying to portray here. If you look at the fact that on March 29th, Comey said never had anyone from this administration, and he said this under oath, by the way, tried to impede his investigation. That's the beginning. That's the end of this conversation. That should be all we're talking about. But if you look back, even during the campaign, what would Trump's motivation have been in the waning days of the campaign, Trish, to be concerned and to be making a public case out of the fact that he was worried that foreign governments might meddle in our election process? And what were the Democrats doing, who supposedly knew about all this? They were saying, will you accept the election results? Remember all this? We can't just forget that and pretend like the motivations here aren't very conclusive when you look at the facts laid out on the table. And the one that you added, Trish, I think is significant too, that he was his boss. Comey was fired. There's another motivation. So when you put all this together, I'm seeing a big nothing burger.
He did write these memos in real time. He makes that point. As soon as he'd leave the White House, he'd get in an FBI vehicle and he'd write down what had happened, what had transpired. I think the judge said it best, perhaps, David. There's a little something here for everyone.
I think that's right. Clearly, Comey was uncomfortable. But the main thing to remember here, and I couldn't disagree more with Ethan, the president has the law enforcement authority in the Constitution. It's delegated down to the director of the FBI, but he cannot be an independent operator. He reports to the Attorney General and to the President of the United States. And that's all really Trump was doing, is exercising his authority as president in saying about Flynn, that's not an area that I think I want to use your resources in. Now, he didn't try to impede anything about him because Comey had
by the
already
way, I
told
should
him,
point that
you're
out.
not a
Yes,
target.
and that's right at the top of this document here. He basically told him, look, you are not a target.
Yeah.
You are not anyone who is under
That's the most
suspicion
important thing coming out of this testimony, and it needs to be repeated. Comey said it then; he's saying it again now.
Ethan, your rebuttal, because I hear you laughing.
Yeah, well, because Dr. Gina, first of all, he was giving public testimony in the Senate. Of course, if there's something going on, there's an investigation that's being reported to the FBI, he's not going to share that publicly. We found that this morning with the DNI, of course. They can't share certain things publicly, so that's why he said what he said publicly. Secondly, going back to Article 3 of the Constitution.
Then you say you can't.
All right. Guys, we got to take another quick break. We're going to continue looking through this.
Loyalty is not part of it.
I'll see you back here on the other side. Thanks so much.